I remember one, if I can take a little time.
Of course.
I have to explain this a bit. We were doing a shot supposedly on the beach. This was in a soundstage.
The wife of Rock Hudson laid a trap at their Hollywood house in 1958. Everything changed when she asked him one question. His response was surreptitiously videotaped by a private investigator. For 65 years, that cassette was lost. The world heard Hudson confess something that might have destroyed him when it eventually came to light. He explained in his own words why he lived in fear until his death in 1985, why his marriage was a lie, and why influential individuals shielded him. Hollywood didn't want you to hear this discussion. The beginning of Rock Hudson's life took place far from red carpets and movie sets. On November 17, 1925, Roy Harold Sherrard Jr. was born in Winnetka, Illinois. His parents, Roy Harold Scherer Sr. and Catherine Wood, were regular workers who were struggling to make ends meet. Winnetka kept to herself. Not nearly as big as the Hollywood world he would eventually take over. The Scherer family was affected by the severe effects of the Great Depression in America. Roy's father lost his work as an auto mechanic when he was only a toddler. Roy Sr. left the family because he was struggling and couldn't handle it. This occurred prior to Roy's 4th birthday. The boy's heart was deeply scarred by that early desertion. It would affect him for the rest of his life and change the way he perceived the world. It didn't get any simpler. Wallace Fitzgerald was the man his mother chose when she got remarried. Fitzgerald, a veteran Marine, exercised severe discipline in his leadership of the house. Roy had no choice but to accept a new name, even though he didn't want a new parent. He was adopted by Fitzgerald. Gave him the last name Fitzgerald and demanded obedience. The boy felt helpless. Both his sense of belonging and his birth name were taken away from him. It was stressful to live with a man who insisted on constant order and respect. Roy was determined to find a way out of these early years, which were characterized by bewilderment and frustration. Things didn't fit together even as a teenager. Roy wanted to be an actor. He desired to appear on the stage. However, there was a single issue. He was unable to commit his lines to memory. This flaw cost him numerous roles in high school. He repeatedly failed at trying out for plays. He was perceived by his teachers and peers as a boy who was unsuited for drama. He encountered the same difficulty when attempting to make a name for himself in Hollywood. His attractive looks and tall 6 physique did not impress casting agents if he was unable to deliver his lines. He persisted in trying nevertheless. His ambitions may have been dashed by rejection after rejection, but Roy persisted. He would become famous one day because of his perseverance. The world beckoned him to serve before Hollywood offered him a chance. During World War II, Roy enlisted in the Navy from 1944 to 1946. In the Philippines, he was employed as an airplane mechanic. It was not a glamorous job. It was difficult, risky, and essential. Roy and other mechanics kept the planes in the air, the missions underway, and the Pacific War moving. His height, 6'5", made him stand out among his fellow sailors. But it was his work ethic and courage that truly set him apart. The war taught him discipline. It taught him resilience. And it prepared him for the battles he would face later in Hollywood. After serving as an aircraft mechanic in the U.S. Navy during World War II, Rock Hudson returned home in 1946. He moved to Los Angeles with one goal in mind, to become an actor. But breaking into Hollywood was far harder than he had imagined. He had no connections. He had no formal training. To survive, he worked as a truck driver. It paid the bills, but it gave him no joy. What set him apart was what he did after work. Hudson would stand for hours outside studio gates. He clutched his headshots and resumes, hoping someone important would notice him. He handed out his photo to anyone who might help. Day after day, he showed up despite being ignored or turned away. His persistence was incredible. His desperation was real. In 1947, his luck finally changed. A powerful agent named Henry Wilson spotted his photo. Wilson was famous for turning unknowns into stars. He believed Hudson had potential, but he also believed Hudson needed a total makeover. The first thing to go was his name. Wilson created Rock Hudson, Rock for the Rock of Gibraltar to suggest strength. Hudson for the river to suggest power and flow. The new name was strong, simple, and easy to remember, but the transformation went deep. Wilson arranged acting lessons, speech coaching, dental work, and even posture correction. Hudson didn't like his new name, but he accepted it. He knew it was his ticket into Hollywood. His first film role came in 1948, and it was a tiny part in Fighter Squadron. Hudson had only one line, but delivering that line took him 38 takes. He was nervous. He had no experience. The director was furious. He shouted at Hudson, calling him a big dumb tree for standing stiff in front of the camera. That moment could have broken him. Instead, it fueled him. Hudson took more lessons. He worked harder. He vowed never to feel that humiliated again. Later that year, Universal Pictures bought his contract from Warner Brothers. They believed in his potential. They sent him to the best acting teachers. He learned speech, dancing, fencing, singing, and horseback riding. Everything a leading man needed. Slowly he got better. His small roles got bigger. His confidence grew. Universal gave him chance after chance because they saw what he could become. Between 1948 and 1954, Hudson appeared in 28 films. At first, he played uncredited roles or minor characters, but he kept improving. He started getting leads in westerns and adventure films. By 1952, he was starring in films like Scarlet Angel and Has Anybody Seen My Gal? In 1954, he took on the role of Bob Merrick in Magnificent Obsession and changed his life forever. Hudson played a reckless playboy whose selfish actions led to a doctor's death. Things got even worse when his mistake caused the doctor's widow, played by Jane Wyman, to lose her sight. But the story didn't end in tragedy. His character was filled with guilt and decided to change. He trained to become a brain surgeon and save the woman he had hurt. What's wild is that this role was first offered to Jeff Chandler, who turned it down because he thought it was too soapy. That choice opened the door for Hudson. The film made over $5 million at the U.S. box office, which was massive at the time. Even though critics gave mixed reviews, the movie's bold colors and emotional style made it a hit. Jane Wyman earned an Oscar nomination, and Hudson went from a face in the crowd to a leading man that Hollywood couldn't ignore. By the end of that same year, Hudson's popularity soared. He became the 17th most popular star in America in 1954. Modern Screen Magazine, a big name in fan culture back then, called him the most popular actor of the year. That title wasn't just about money. It showed how much audiences loved him. In just 1 year, he went from almost unknown to a household name. His face was everywhere, from magazines to radio shows. Fans couldn't get enough, and Hollywood knew they had found their next big star. Hudson kept proving himself. In 1955, he starred in All That Heaven Allows, playing a kind-hearted gardener who falls in love with a wealthy widow. Their romance shocked their small town and gave audiences a lot to talk about. The next year, he starred in Written on the Wind, a wild drama about greed, family trouble, and secrets in Texas. Both films showed that Hudson wasn't just good-looking. He could bring deep emotion to the screen. He became known as the ultimate romantic hero of the 1950s. His work in these films helped shape Hollywood's love stories for years to come. But it was Giant in 1956 that marked the height of his career. Hudson played Bick Benedict, a proud Texas cattle baron. The film followed Bick's life as Texas changed around him. Hudson starred alongside Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean, who gave his final performance before his tragic death. The movie cost $5.04 million to make and earned over $454 million when adjusted for today's money. Hudson showed incredible range as Bick, moving from a stubborn rancher to a man who learned to change with the times. The film tackled racism, class, and gender struggles, and it became one of Hollywood's greatest epics. Hudson's powerful performance earned him his first and only Oscar nomination for Best Actor in 1957. Though he lost to Yul Brynner, the nomination proved that Hudson was more than just a handsome face. It showed that he could deliver deep, moving performances that stayed with audiences. In the 1950s, Hollywood was a place where secrets could make or break a star. Rock Hudson was one of the biggest names at the time, known for his good looks and charm. But behind the scenes, whispers about his private life threatened everything. In 1955, a magazine called Confidential was about to expose him. His agent, Henry Wilson, knew this could ruin Hudson's career. Wilson, famous for protecting his star's images, came up with a plan. He arranged for Hudson to marry his secretary, Phyllis Gates. This wasn't love. It was a move to make Hudson look like a perfect family man. They got married in Santa Barbara on November 1955. Only a few people were there, including Wilson. Hudson told the press that his marriage was his greatest blessing, but those close to him knew it was all fake. The studio even traded other stars' secrets to the tabloids to keep Hudson's hidden. Phyllis Gates had met Hudson in October 1954 at Wilson's house. That meeting wasn't random. Wilson set it up as part of his plan. Within days, they were seen out together, and gossip columns called it a romance. In early 1955, Gates moved into Hudson's house on Sunset Boulevard. Everything they did was staged to look like a real relationship. Some reports later said Gates knew it was fake all along. There were even claims she was also gay, making her the perfect partner for this act. Their so-called love story was really just damage control. Both of them were playing roles directed by the most powerful agent in town. Their marriage didn't last long. After a short honeymoon in Jamaica, things fell apart. Gates said their sex life was rushed and cold. Hudson once told her all women are dirty. That hurt deeply. She started getting late-night calls from young men claiming to be fans. Hudson stayed out late, often not coming home until the morning. The rumors about him having affairs with men grew stronger. A friend later confirmed that Hudson was with another man while filming A Farewell to Arms in Italy. By 1957, the marriage was finished. Gates filed for divorce in April 1958, citing mental cruelty. The divorce became final that same year. When it came time to divide things, Hudson didn't offer much. But Gates was shocked when he offered her just a little cash, her car, and nowhere to live. Angry and desperate, she fired her first lawyer and hired someone new. That's when Fred Otash, a private investigator, entered the picture. Otash was famous for getting dirt on Hollywood stars. Gates wanted proof of Hudson's private life to use as leverage. In the end, Hudson agreed to a better deal. Gates got their house $250 a week for 10 years, which would be about $1.03 million today, and stock in his production company. The bitter fight showed how little trust was left between them. In January 1958, Rock Hudson's life took a dark turn behind the closed doors of his own home. His wife, Phyllis Gates, sat him down and confronted him with something unexpected, a Rorschach test. She claimed his answers, where he saw thousands of butterflies and snakes, meant more than he realized. Butterflies, she said, showed his attraction to women. Snakes, she insisted, meant an attraction to men. Gates told him calmly, "I'm not condemning you, but if you recognize your problem, wouldn't you want to do something about it?" What seemed like a concerned wife's plea was actually a move in a bigger game. Gates, guided by a private investigator named Fred Otash, was trying to gather proof for a divorce. In the 1950s, a psychological test could become a weapon. And in Hollywood, image was everything. That night didn't end there. Gates had set a trap and Hudson walked right into it. Otash secretly recorded their conversation, a tape that stayed hidden for over 65 years. On that tape, Gates asked him a question that no one could have imagined hearing between a married couple in those times. She said, "Rock, you're great speed with me sexually. Are you that fast with boys?" The question was sharp and brutal. Hudson was just 32. The man who had been voted one of the world's most desirable stars was caught off guard. It wasn't just a wife's heartbreak. It was a carefully planned ambush. Gates wasn't searching for the truth. She was collecting ammunition. What came next was even more shocking. Hudson, cornered and pressured, gave a quiet and devastating answer. He said, "Well, it's a physical conjunction. Boys don't fit, so this is why it lasts longer." His words were blunt. They showed the hidden pain of a man forced to live two lives. In 1958, admitting this, even in private, was dangerous. A few wrong words could end his career, his safety, everything. Yet there he was, speaking plainly on a recording he didn't know existed. Gates kept pushing. She accused him of what the tabloids and gossip circles had whispered for years. She said, "Everyone knows that you were picking up boys off the street shortly after we were married and have continued to do so, thinking that being married would cover up for you." Hudson tried to defend himself. "I have never picked up any boys on the street. I have never picked up any boys in a bar. Never. I have never picked up any boys other than to give them a ride." But the damage was done. Their marriage, which began in 1955, was over by 1958. When Gates filed for divorce, she claimed mental cruelty. The settlement was huge. Gates got their Hollywood Hills home and $250 a week for 10 years. That would be over $1.03 million today. For decades, no one outside a small circle knew these details. The tape stayed locked away in Fred Otash's files. He had kept secrets for the biggest names, Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, and others. After he died in 1992, the files stayed hidden a while longer. Then, in the 2010s and 2020s, his family released them. The truth came out in magazines, books, and documentaries. The world finally heard what had really happened that night. When Pillow Talk hit cinemas in October 1959, it wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was the film that changed Rock Hudson's career forever. For the first time, he starred alongside Doris Day. Their chemistry lit up the screen. Audiences were hooked. The story was playful and daring for its time. It followed two people forced to share a phone line. Hudson played a smooth-talking composer. Doris Day was a clever interior decorator. The banter crackled with innuendo. The film made $18.75 million at the box office. That was huge money in 1959. It held the top spot in U.S. cinemas for 7 straight weeks. The success gave Doris Day her only Oscar nomination. It also turned Hudson into the king of romantic comedies. The duo became so popular that they were both named Allied Stars of the Year for 1959. Fans couldn't get enough of them. Women adored Hudson. Men wanted to be like him. The magic they created on screen was rare. Their films felt fresh, funny, and irresistible. The pair's success led to 2 more hit movies. Lover Comeback came out in 1961 and made $7.06 million in rentals. Send Me No Flowers followed in 1964 and was another box office winner. Their 3 films together set the standard for romantic comedies. Even today, people still look back at them as some of the best ever made. Behind the scenes, Hudson was more than just a star. He took control. With his 7 Pictures Corporation, he worked as an uncredited producer on Lover Comeback. He did the same for Send Me No Flowers through Gibraltar Productions. That wasn't common for actors back then, but Hudson wanted a say in his career, and he got it. His films didn't just entertain, they made money and gave him power. His talent didn't go unnoticed. Between 1959 and 1963, Hudson won the Golden Globe for World Film Favorite, male 4 years in a row. That kind of streak was rare. It showed just how much audiences loved him. He stood alongside stars like Cary Grant and Tony Curtis as one of the most admired actors in the world. Hudson wasn't satisfied just being a heartthrob. He started his own production companies, first 7 Pictures Corporation, then Gibraltar Productions. This gave him freedom. He chose roles that interested him. He shared in the profits. He had a say in what happened. This move helped him stay at the top while others faded. His business smarts opened doors that many actors could only dream about, but not every decision worked out. In the late 1950s, Hudson turned down roles in Sayonara, The Bridge on the River Kwai, and Ben-Hur. All 3 became legendary films. Instead, he starred in A Farewell to Arms in 1957. The movie flopped. It hurt his reputation. Hudson later admitted it was a big mistake. He missed out on Oscar glory. In 1966, Hudson took another risk with Seconds. The dark thriller was nothing like his usual films. He played a man trapped in a terrifying new life. Critics praised him, but audiences stayed away. The movie made just $1.75 million. Years later, people called it a masterpiece. But at the time, it was a tough blow. Hudson tried again to break out of his romantic image. He starred in Tobruk in 1967 and Ice Station Zebra in 1968. Both films showed his tougher side. Ice Station Zebra became his favorite. It did well at the box office, though it didn't make back its massive budget. Hudson proved he could handle action and drama, not just romance. In 1969, Hudson acted alongside John Wayne in The Undefeated. He discovered the legend's secrets. Wayne wore lifts in his boots, tiny shoes, and even a corset to keep his famous figure. Hudson at 6'5" stood taller than Wayne's 6'3" frame. In actuality, Hudson was taller than James Stewart and the majority of other prominent men of his era. Although his height made him stand out, it also forced filmmakers to use their imaginations when working with shorter co-stars. For many years, Rock Hudson had been one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. However, he made a move in 1971 that surprised a lot of people in the field. By assuming a prominent role on television, he moved from the big screen to the living rooms of America. For a prominent actor at the time, this move was viewed as a step down. Hudson disproved the notion that waning talents went to television. In McMillan and Wife, he agreed to play Stuart McMillan, the police commissioner, and received an astounding $100,000 to $120,000 per episode. For TV actors at the time, receiving that type of money was practically unheard of. Today, that would be more than $800,000 each episode after accounting for inflation. The money wasn't the only factor. The duration of the programs ranged from 90 minutes to 2 hours. They had the feel of short films. Viewers couldn't get enough of Hudson, and his star power made the show succeed. From September 17, 1971 to April 24, 1977, the program ran. It produced 40 full-length episodes over the course of 6 seasons. It was like having a movie night at home with each one. As part of NBC mystery movie lineup, it shared its Sunday night time slot with other popular shows, including McCloud and Columbo. With Susan St. James as his astute wife, Sally, Hudson portrayed the endearing San Francisco police commissioner. Together, audiences adored them. Hudson demonstrated his versatility as a filmmaker. He could bring both humor and emotion to a television program. And despite the final season's cast changes, he remained with the show through to the end. Crime dramas weren't the only thing Hudson did. He also displayed his sense of humor. He made appearances on well-known variety shows such as Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and The Carol Burnett Show. He even performed a humorous dance with Nancy Walker on The Carol Burnett Show. Everyone laughed when they saw his 6'5" frame next to her diminutive stature. Hudson had no problem making light of himself or his reputation as a hottie. These appearances kept him in the public eye and showed a distinct side of him. Following McMillan and Wife, Hudson worked on large-scale television programs that have the feel of motion pictures. He starred in Wheels in 1978, a drama about the automobile industry in the United States. Based on the novel by Arthur Haley, the play featured a large cast and a compelling plot. The audience was captivated by Hudson's portrayal of a strong auto executive. He took on Ray Bradbury's science fiction masterpiece, The Martian Chronicles, in 1980. He played Colonel John Wilder, who oversaw Earth's missions to Mars in the 3-night mini-series. Particularly in passages involving loss, hope, and what it means to be human, critics praised Hudson's ability to give the part dimension. Hudson's decision to embrace television kept him relevant as Hollywood transformed, while other celebrities from his time suffered. He demonstrated that television might be just as fulfilling as movies. Throughout the 1980s, he continued to be in demand by making guest appearances and miniseries. His career served as a model for several movie stars who subsequently transitioned to television. Hudson played Daniel Reese in the popular television series Dynasty in 1984. He received an astounding $100,000 every episode, or about $300,000 in today's currency. He portrayed Crystal Carrington, portrayed by Linda Evans, as a potential love interest. It was his last part. His return to the tiny screen delighted his fans. However, Hudson was engaged in a dreadful struggle behind the scenes. During what appeared to be a routine medical visit in June 1984, Hudson discovered he had Kaposi's sarcoma. At the time, there was a strong correlation between this uncommon cancer and AIDS. It was heartbreaking news. There was no cure or effective therapy for AIDS back then. Therefore, it was a death sentence. Even his pals didn't know that Hudson had been diagnosed. He looked everywhere for assistance, even going to Paris to receive experimental care. In the meantime, he kept working, concealing his suffering. Dynasty's filming turned into a nightmare. He and Linda Evans had to film a kissing sequence. Retakes were repeatedly requested by the producers in order to give it a more impassioned appearance. Hudson kept his mouth shut and used mouthwash in between takes because he was afraid of endangering her, even though research today shows that such casual contact was harmless. He subsequently declared it to be the worst day of his life. The media went wild when his sickness was ultimately made public in July 1985. People were concerned about producer Aaron Spelling and Evans, who had kissed him on television. Callers in a panic overflowed hotlines. Fear took hold because people didn't understand how AIDS transmitted. A few members of the staff and actors wouldn't approach Evans. The event made the industry confront the misinformation and stigma associated with AIDS. Evans supported Hudson and used the occasion to advocate for empathy and understanding. One of the most talked about stories in the world is Rock Hudson's quest for a cure. He did not conceal his AIDS diagnosis. He started around frantically for anything that might be of assistance. He took a plane all the way to Paris in July 1985. He went there to test HPA-23, an experimental medication. The Institut Pasteur produced it, but it was unavailable in the U.S. However, he had a difficult battle, even in Paris. Because they refused to treat AIDS patients, the hospital there refused to admit him. They threatened to do it for him unless he disclosed his sickness. There was nothing Hudson could do. The world saw how difficult it was for AIDS sufferers to receive treatment because of his struggle. People witnessed the panic around the illness, the lack of options, and the red tape. Every action he took was monitored by the media. His struggle demonstrated the pressing need for increased financing and improved care. His pals even requested assistance from the White House, but the Reagan administration turned them down. Nevertheless, millions were moved by Hudson's courage. Donations were sparked by his narrative, and Congress swiftly allocated $221 million for AIDS research after his passing. Rock Hudson passed away in his sleep at his Beverly Hills residence on October 2, 1985. He was 59. He had revealed his sickness to the world only 3 months prior. Everyone was surprised by his demise. He was the first well-known American celebrity to pass away from problems associated to AIDS. The word went throughout the world. People who had previously believed that AIDS was a far-off issue realized that anyone might have it, including a well-liked movie star. People's eyes were opened by Hudson's passing. It assisted in tearing down the barriers of ignorance and fear. The demand for research on AIDS increased. In a few weeks, donations more than doubled. Congress moved quickly, allocating funds to combat the illness. The top personalities in Hollywood attended his burial.